I remember the exact temperature of the bathroom tile under my feet that morning. 68 degrees. The same temperature Richard keeps this house every single day, because that's what Richard likes. I've lived in 68 degrees for 28 years. It was January 14th, 2024, a Tuesday. Richard was in the shower at 6:47 a.m. like always, because Richard is a creature of precise habits. The steam was rolling out from under the glass door, filling the bathroom with that mint shampoo smell I've known since 1994. I was putting away his freshly ironed shirts when his phone buzzed on the marble counter. I wasn't snooping. In 28 years of marriage, I have never once gone through Richard's phone. I trusted him. That was my job, wasn't it? To trust. To keep the house at 68 degrees, and his shirts pressed, and his dinner warm. But the phone was right there. The screen lit up. The name said Victoria Chen. The message said, "I missed last night. 3 words. 28 years of marriage collapsed into a WhatsApp notification. Victoria Chen is Richard's boss. She's 38, 17 years younger than my husband and 20 years younger than me. She came to our Christmas party once and complimented my cranberry sauce. "Olivia, this is divine. You must give me the recipe." I gave her my grandmother's recipe, the one that's been in my family for 4 generations, and she probably never made it once. Women like Victoria Chen don't make cranberry sauce. They take what they want from women like me and forget we exist. I had 2 minutes before Richard would turn off the faucet and step out expecting his pressed shirt. Two minutes to decide what kind of woman I was going to be. Most women would scream. They would throw the phone at the shower door and feel satisfied for 30 seconds before reality set in. We're supposed to be emotional, irrational. We're supposed to give men like Richard the excuse to say, "See, this is why I went to someone else. She's crazy." I'm not crazy. I'm a 58-year-old woman who gave up her career as a CPA to follow her husband from Cleveland to Denver to Phoenix. I sold my grandmother's jewelry, $3,200 worth, to buy Richard a wedding ring he never knew the true cost of. I've made 10,000 dinners and ironed 15,000 shirts so Richard could climb his corporate ladder. I was not going to scream. I picked up the phone, typed the passcode, 1994, our wedding year, and unlocked it. I read 8 months of conversations. Hotels. Restaurants. Weekend conferences that were really just the two of them in Sedona or Flagstaff. Once, disgustingly, in the honeymoon suite of the same resort where Richard and I spent our first anniversary. I didn't cry. Crying is what they expect. Instead, I typed, "Come over now. Richard wants to see you before work." I hit send. Put the phone back exactly where I found it, walked to the living room, sat in the chair that faces the front door. And I waited. I'm good at waiting. I waited for Richard to finish law school. Waited for him to make partner. Waited for him to decide it was time for children. I waited for Tyler to go to college so I could finally have time for myself. Except by then I didn't know who myself was anymore. The doorbell rang at 7:14 a.m. "Liv? Someone's at the door?" Richard called from upstairs. "I'll get it." My voice was terrifyingly calm. Through the frosted glass I could see her silhouette. Tall, thin. Hair that doesn't frizz. I thought about my mother, who spent 40 years married to my father and died 3 months after his funeral because she didn't know how to exist without a man to take care of. I was not going to be my mother. I opened the door. Victoria was wearing a red dress, not a work dress, a date dress. She had a coffee in each hand, one for her, one for him. She was smiling. She stopped smiling when she saw me. "Olivia," she said. Just my name, falling out of her mouth like a curse word. "Victoria, please. Come in." I stepped aside, gestured toward the living room like I was welcoming a guest to a dinner party. That's what good hostesses do. We make people comfortable even when we want to watch them burn. Her face went the color of old milk. The coffees shook in her hands. "Liv?" Richard's voice came down the stairs. "Who is it?" I looked at Victoria. In her eyes I saw the exact moment she understood. This wasn't an accident. This was a trap. "It's for you, Richard. It's Victoria." From work. Silence. The kind of silence that has weight. Then I heard him coming down the stairs. Richard appeared wearing the blue shirt I'd ironed that morning. His face was the color of bathroom tile. "Olivia, I can explain." I smiled. Not the smile I'd practiced for 28 years of company dinners. The smile of a woman who had finally stopped waiting. "Can you? Because I'd love to hear it." I closed the door behind Victoria. The lock clicked like a gunshot. "Sit," I told Victoria. It wasn't a request. She sat. 8 months, I said. Hotels, restaurants, weekends away. The honeymoon suite in Sedona. Remember Sedona, Richard? Our first anniversary. I thought it was romantic that you wanted to go back. Now I understand you just wanted to save money reusing a destination. It's not what you think. Richard started. What I think is that my husband has been sleeping with his boss while I ironed his shirts and smiled at his colleagues like a good corporate wife. I turned to Victoria. Did you ever make it? The cranberry sauce? What? The recipe. Did you ever make it? No. I didn't think so. I stood and walked to the mantel, where a family photo sat in a silver frame, Tyler's graduation. We're all smiling. Do you know what I've sacrificed, Victoria? I gave up my career. Every time Richard needed to move for his job, I said yes, because that's what wives do. We pack the boxes and build new lives for men too busy to notice we exist. I have a question, I said. Does your husband know, Victoria? She froze. How do you know about Robert? I looked you up. Robert Chen, Stanford Medical School. Practice in Scottsdale. 2 children. Emma, 12. Jacob, 9. Beautiful family photos on Instagram. I picked up my phone. I have his number, his email. I could contact him right now. I could ruin your life the way you've ruined mine. Olivia! Richard stepped forward. Sit down, Richard. He sat. I'm not going to contact your husband today, Victoria. Not because I'm kind, but because I want you to live with this. I want you to look at your children tonight and know that at any moment your world could end. Victoria was shaking. Please, my children. Didn't think about your children while texting my husband at midnight? You're thinking about them now, though. Now that there are consequences. I set the phone down. Get out of my house. She left without grabbing her coffees, without looking at Richard. Then it was just the two of us. 28 years of marriage, and we were finally going to have an honest conversation. Olivia, we need to talk. Yes. But first, one more question. I walked to the kitchen, opened the drawer with the documents Richard thinks I don't know about. When were you going to tell me you transferred the house into your name only? His face went white. And the $95,000 you transferred to your mother's account last month? He couldn't answer. There was no good answer. I saw him clearly for the first time in decades. Not the charming law student I fell in love with. Just a small, scared man who'd been planning to leave me with nothing. I'm calling a lawyer, not today, but soon. And when I do, Richard, I want you to remember this moment. This is the face of a woman who is done being invisible. I walked toward the stairs. Where are you going? To start my life, the one I should have started 28 years ago. I stepped into the bathroom. His phone sat on the counter where I'd left it. A notification lit up the screen, a text from Mom. Did you tell her yet? She needs to be out by February. Helen, my mother-in-law. The woman who told me at my wedding that her son could have done better. She knew. She was part of this. February. They wanted me out by February. It was January 14th. I had 18 days. I wasn't looking for them. I was looking for the car insurance documents because Richard had conveniently forgotten to tell me he'd cancelled my card on the joint account. I discovered that little surprise when I tried to buy gas and my card was declined in front of a line of people at the Chevron on Scottsdale Road. The folder was in his home office in the bottom drawer of his desk, behind a stack of old tax returns. Richard always thought I was too stupid to look through financial documents. 28 years of letting him handle the money had convinced him I couldn't read a spreadsheet. I was a CPA for 11 years. I can read a spreadsheet better than he can. The first receipt was from Cartier for $200 for a tennis bracelet, dated March 15th, 2023. I don't own a tennis bracelet. The second was from Tiffany. $6,800 for diamond earrings. May 22nd, 2023. I don't own diamond earrings from Tiffany. The third was from a jeweler in Sedona. $7,500 for a custom necklace. August 3rd, 2023. Our anniversary is in September. I got a gift card to a spa. $18,500 in jewelry. None of it for me. I sat in Richard's leather chair, the one that cost $3,000, because Richard believes expensive furniture makes him look successful, and I added up the numbers. 8 months of hotels. Eight months of restaurants. 8 months of gifts for a woman who couldn't be bothered to make my grandmother's cranberry sauce. I was calculating the total when I heard the front door open. It wasn't Richard. Richard was at work, probably sitting in meetings with Victoria Chen, probably pretending the last 3 days hadn't happened. Richard is very good at pretending. Olivia? Are you home? Helen, my mother-in-law, the woman who wanted me out of my own house by February. I put the receipts back in the folder. I walked out of the office. Helen was standing in my foyer like she owned the place. She was wearing her church clothes, the beige suit she wears every Sunday to First Baptist, where she sits in the third pew and prays for everyone's sins, except her own. Helen, what a surprise. We need to talk. She didn't wait for an invitation. She walked past me into the living room and sat down on my couch. Richard told me what happened. Did he? What exactly did he tell you? He told me you've been making threats, that you're planning to hire a lawyer, that you've been irrational. Irrational. There was that word again. Your son has been having an affair for 8 months, Helen. He transferred our house into his name only. He moved $95,000 into your account. And I'm the irrational one? Helen's face didn't change. She'd known about all of it. Richard made some mistakes, she said. But marriage is about forgiveness. The Bible says, thou shalt not commit adultery. I'm pretty sure it says that before it says anything about forgiveness. Helen pressed her lips together. You've always been difficult, Olivia, from the very beginning. Richard could have married Jennifer Walsh. Do you remember Jennifer? She came from a good family. She would have understood how to be a proper wife. Jennifer Walsh, Richard's college girlfriend. Helen has mentioned her at every family gathering for 28 years. Jennifer Walsh is on her third divorce, Helen. I read about it on Facebook. That's not the point. What is the point? Why are you here? Helen opened her purse and pulled out an envelope. Richard asked me to give you this. I took the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a settlement offer. Richard was willing to give me $50,000 and the Honda Civic to walk away quietly. No lawyers, no court, no mess. $50,000. After 28 years. After giving up my career. After ironing 15,000 shirts. This is a joke. It's more than fair, Helen said. You didn't contribute financially to this marriage, Olivia. Richard built everything, the house, the savings, the investments. You just existed. I looked at my mother-in-law, this woman who had never once called me by the right name, who told me at my wedding that her son could have done better. Who had been plotting with Richard to throw me out of my own home like a piece of furniture that no longer matched the decor. Get out of my house, Helen. It's not your house anymore. Richard's name is on the deed. Get out, now. Helen stood up slowly, smoothing her beige skirt. You're making a mistake, Olivia. Richard has resources. He has connections. If you fight this, you'll lose everything. I already lost everything, Helen, the moment I trusted your son. She walked to the door, then turned back. You have until February 1st. After that, Richard will begin formal eviction proceedings. The door closed behind her. I stood in my living room, the room I'd decorated, the room where I'd hosted Christmas dinners and birthday parties and Sunday brunches for 3 decades, and I felt something shift inside me. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't even angry. I was strategic. I went back to Richard's office. I took photos of every receipt, every bank statement, every document in that bottom drawer. I emailed them to myself, then deleted the sent message. I created a new email account Richard didn't know about and forwarded everything there. Then I called my cousin Martha. Martha is a paralegal in Tucson. She gave me the name of a divorce attorney named Patricia Okonkwo, who specializes in cases where husbands try to hide assets from their wives. She's expensive, Martha warned, but she's worth it. She destroyed my friend's ex-husband in court, got her the house, the cars, everything. I called Patricia's office that afternoon. She could see me Friday. 3 days. I just had to survive 3 more days. That night, Tyler came to dinner. I hadn't seen my son since the morning I confronted Richard. He'd been avoiding my calls, responding to texts with single words. I knew Richard had talked to him, I just didn't know what he'd said. Tyler is 26 years old. He has Richard's blue eyes and my mother's stubborn chin. He works at Richard's company in the finance department, a job Richard got him after Tyler graduated from ASU with a degree in business and no idea what to do with his life. Hey, Mom. He hugged me, but it was stiff, distant, the kind of hug you give someone at a funeral. Hey, sweetheart. Are you hungry? I made lasagna. I can't stay long, I just wanted to talk. We sat at the kitchen table. The same table where I'd helped him with homework, where we'd celebrated his birthdays, where I'd sat alone 1,000 nights while Richard worked late. Dad told me what happened, Tyler said. Did he? He said you went through his phone. That you set up some kind of trap for his colleague, that you've been threatening to ruin his career. I stared at my son, my only child. The boy I'd read bedtime stories to, the teenager I'd driven to soccer practice, the young man I'd watched graduate from college with tears streaming down my face. Tyler, your father has been having an affair for 8 months. He said it was a mistake, that he ended it. He didn't end it, Tyler. I ended it. By opening the door when his mistress showed up at our house. Tyler looked down at his hands. He said you've been unstable, that you've been having episodes. Richard was telling our son I was mentally ill. Tyler, look at me. He looked up. I am not unstable. I'm not having episodes. Your father has been lying to me, lying to you, lying to everyone for months. He transferred this house into his name only. He moved $95,000 to your grandmother. He's trying to leave me with nothing after 28 years of marriage. Dad said that money was for Grandma's medical bills. Your grandmother doesn't have medical bills, Tyler. She goes to water aerobics 3 times a week. She's healthier than I am. Tyler's face was confused, conflicted. I could see him trying to reconcile the father he knew with the man I was describing. I don't know what to believe, Mom. Then believe this. I pulled out my phone. I showed him the photos of the receipts. $1,500 in jewelry, Tyler. Tennis bracelets, diamond earrings, custom necklaces. Do you see any of that on me? He scrolled through the photos. His face went pale. He bought all this for her? Yes. While you were here alone? Yes. Tyler set the phone down. For a long moment, he didn't speak. When he finally looked up, there were tears in his eyes. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't know. He made it sound like... I know what he made it sound like. That's what your father does. He controls the narrative. He always has. Tyler reached across the table and took my hand. What do you need me to do? I felt something crack inside my chest. Relief. Hope. My son believed me. I need you to be careful, I said. Your father doesn't know I have copies of those documents. If he finds out, I won't say anything. And Tyler, there's something else. Something I need you to find out. What? I thought about the message from Helen, the February deadline, the $95,000. There were pieces missing from this puzzle, and I needed to see the whole picture before I met with Patricia on Friday. I need you to look at your father's work email. There's something going on at his company, something connected to Victoria Chen. I don't know what it is yet, but... Tyler's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his face changed. It's Dad. He wants to know where I am. What are you going to tell him? Tyler stood up. He leaned down and kissed my forehead, the way he used to when he was a little boy saying good night. I'm going to tell him I'm with a friend, and tomorrow I'm going to find out what he's hiding. He walked to the door, then he stopped and turned back. Mom, the jewelry, the $8,500. There's something else you should know. What? Dad's been under investigation at work. Something about misuse of company funds. He told me it was nothing, just paperwork, but... Tyler hesitated. Victoria Chen is the one who filed the complaint. The door closed behind him. I sat alone in my kitchen, surrounded by cold lasagna and colder truths. Victoria Chen filed a complaint against Richard, and then she started sleeping with him. This wasn't just an affair. This was something else entirely. Patricia Okonkwo's office was on the 4th floor of a building in downtown Phoenix that smelled like leather and money, the kind of money I didn't have. The kind of money Richard had been systematically moving out of my reach for months. Mrs. Crawford. Patricia extended her hand. She was a tall woman, mid-50s, with silver-streaked hair and the kind of handshake that told you she didn't lose cases. Please, sit down. I sat. I placed the folder on her desk, the one with the photos of receipts, the bank statements, the property transfer documents. Everything I'd found in Richard's office. Patricia opened the folder. She put on reading glasses and went through each document slowly, her face revealing nothing. Your husband transferred the house to his name only on September 15th, she said finally, 3 weeks before your anniversary. I know. The $95,000 wire transfer to his mother was on December 28th, 3 days after Christmas. I know. And you had no idea about any of this? Richard handles the finances. He always has. I trusted him. Patricia took off her glasses. Mrs. Crawford, I'm going to be direct with you. What your husband has done is called dissipation of marital assets. It's illegal. It's also extremely common in cases where a spouse is planning to file for divorce. He was planning to divorce me? Based on these documents, I'd say he's been planning it for at least 6 months. The property transfer, the wire to his mother, the affair, these aren't random actions. This is a strategy. I felt the room tilt slightly. 6 months. Richard had been planning to leave me for 6 months while I ironed his shirts and made his dinners, and believed every lie that came out of his mouth. What do I do? Patricia leaned forward. First, we file before he does. That gives us the advantage. Second, we request an emergency freeze on all joint accounts. Third, we subpoena the records from his mother's account to prove the wire was marital property. And the house? The house is complicated. Arizona is a community property state. Even though he transferred the deed, you have a legal claim to half. But proving fraud takes time, and time is something you may not have. February 1st. That's when they want me out. Patricia nodded. Which brings me to my next point. You need somewhere to go. Do you have family? I thought of Helen, demanding I leave my own home. I thought of Sandra, but Sandra wasn't family anymore. Sandra was just someone I used to know. No? Friends? Richard didn't like me having close friends. He said they interfered with our marriage. Patricia's face softened slightly. The first crack in her professional armor. That's called isolation, Mrs. Crawford. It's a form of abuse. Your husband has been controlling you financially and socially for decades. Abuse. I'd never thought of it that way. Richard never hit me. He never screamed. He just managed. Every decision, every dollar, every friendship. He managed it all, and I let him because I thought that's what marriage was. How much is this going to cost? My retainer is $15,000. Given the complexity of your case, I estimate total fees between $50,000 and $75,000. I almost laughed. Richard had offered me $50,000 to disappear, the same amount it would cost to fight him. I don't have that kind of money. Do you have anything? Savings, investments? Richard controls everything. Jewelry? Property? I looked down at my wedding ring. The ring I'd secretly paid for with my grandmother's inheritance. The ring Richard had been taking credit for all these years. I have some jewelry. Then sell it. Every piece you can spare. You're going to need every dollar. I left Patricia's office with a folder of paperwork and a timeline. File by Monday. Freeze the accounts by Wednesday. Prepare for Richard's counterattack by Friday. The drive home took 40 minutes. I spent every minute of it thinking about the life I'd built and how quickly it was falling apart. When I pulled into the driveway, there was a car I didn't recognize parked in front of my house. A black Mercedes. New, expensive. I walked inside and found Helen sitting in my living room. Again. But this time she wasn't alone. A man in a grey suit stood by the window. He had the look of a lawyer. Expensive tie, cheap smile. Olivia? Helen's voice was ice. This is Mr. Davidson. He's Richard's attorney. I know who he is. I'd seen his name on the settlement offer. Mr. Davidson stepped forward. Mrs. Crawford, I'm here to discuss a revised offer from your husband. I'm not interested in offers. I have my own attorney. Patricia Okonkwo. Yes, we know. She's very good. He smiled that cheap smile again. But I think you'll want to hear what Richard is proposing. Whatever it is, the answer is no. Even if it involves your son? I felt my blood go cold. What about Tyler? Mr. Davidson pulled out a document. Tyler works for Richard's company. His position, his salary, his future, they're all dependent on Richard's goodwill. If you proceed with this divorce in a hostile manner, Richard will be forced to reconsider Tyler's employment. You're threatening my son. I'm informing you of potential consequences. Helen stood up. She walked toward me with something in her hands, a cardboard box. These are your mother's things, she said. The ones you left at our house after she died. Richard thought you might want them back. She set the box on the floor. On top was my mother's rosary. The one she'd held every night in the hospital. The one I'd given Helen to keep safe. And beneath the rosary, in pieces, was the porcelain plate my mother had brought from Ireland when she was 19 years old. The plate that had hung in every kitchen my mother ever had. The plate she'd promised to leave me. It was broken. shattered into a dozen pieces. "That was an accident," Helen said. "I was cleaning and it fell." I looked at my mother's plate, at the pieces that could never be put back together, at the woman who had broken it and felt nothing. Something inside me snapped. Not broke, snapped. Like a rubber band pulled too tight for too long. "Get out!" Mrs. "Crawford," Mr. Davidson started. "Get out of my house. Both of you, now." "This is Richard's house," Helen began. "It's my house for 13 more days, and you are trespassing. Leave now, or I will call the police." Helen's face went red. She'd never seen me like this. No one had. Mr. Davidson gathered his papers. "Think about what I said, Mrs. Crawford. Think about Tyler." They left. The door slammed behind them. I stood alone in my living room, surrounded by broken porcelain and broken promises. I picked up the pieces of my mother's plate, one by one. I held them in my hands, like fragments of a life I could no longer recognize. Then I went to the kitchen and got the superglue. It took 3 hours, but I put the plate back together. It wasn't perfect. The cracks showed, but it was whole again. When I finished, I hung it on the wall in my kitchen, right where my mother would have wanted it. Then I called Tyler. "Mom, what's wrong?" "They threatened you, Tyler. Richard's lawyer came to the house." He said, "If I fight the divorce, Richard will fire you." Silence on the other end. "Tyler?" "I know, Mom. Dad told me this morning. He said I need to convince you to take the settlement." "And?" "And I told him to go to hell." I felt tears on my face for the first time since this nightmare began. "Tyler." "I'm not going to let him use me against you, Mom. I'll find another job. 100 other jobs. I don't care. You're more important than any job." "He's your father." "He's the man who cheated on my mother and tried to steal her home. That's not my father. That's just some guy I used to know." I wiped my tears. My son. My beautiful, loyal son. "I love you, Tyler." "I love you too, Mom. Now get some sleep. We're going to beat him." I hung up the phone. I looked at my mother's plate, cracked but whole. I looked at the calendar. 13 days until February. I looked at my wedding ring, then I took it off and put it in my jewelry box. Tomorrow I would sell it. I sold my wedding ring on a Wednesday morning. The jeweler on Camelback Road gave me $2,200 for it. Less than Richard claimed he'd paid, but more than I expected for a symbol of 28 years of lies. I walked out of that store feeling lighter than I had in months, maybe years. The divorce papers were filed Monday. By Tuesday, Richard's accounts were frozen. By Wednesday afternoon, his lawyer was calling Patricia's office every hour, demanding to know what I thought I was doing. I knew exactly what I was doing. I was surviving. He's panicking, Patricia told me during our call. His lawyer is threatening everything. Custody battles, defamation suits, criminal charges. It's all bluster. He knows he's caught. What about the investigation? The one Tyler told me about? Victoria Chen's complaint? I've been looking into that. Your husband has been billing personal expenses to his company for at least 2 years. Hotels, dinners, gifts, about $85,000 in fraudulent charges. Victoria Chen filed a complaint with HR 6 months ago. Then, mysteriously, she withdrew it. Right around when the affair started. Exactly. But here's the interesting part. Victoria never deleted the original documentation. She kept copies of everything. And according to my contact at Richard's company, she's been meeting with the board of directors in secret. Victoria was building a case against Richard. Why would she do that? She's sleeping with him. Patricia's voice was dry. Because Victoria Chen is smart. She started the affair to protect herself, to make Richard think she was on his side. But she's been gathering evidence this whole time. When the moment is right, she's going to hand everything to the board and walk away clean. Richard will take all the blame. I thought about Victoria standing in my living room, shaking in her red dress. I thought she'd been afraid of me. She wasn't afraid of me. She was afraid of getting caught before she was ready. What happens to me if Richard goes down? That depends on how clean we can make your separation. If we can prove you had no knowledge of his activities, you should be protected, but we need to move fast. How fast? Days. maybe a week. I hung up the phone. My mind was racing. Victoria was going to destroy Richard, but she was going to do it on her timeline, not mine. I needed to find a way to control when that bomb went off. I needed to talk to Victoria. Finding her wasn't hard. A quick search gave me her home address, a house in Paradise Valley worth about $2 million. Her husband's dermatology practice was doing well, apparently. I drove there on Thursday afternoon. I didn't call ahead. I didn't want to give her time to prepare. The house was beautiful. Spanish tile, desert landscaping, a fountain in the front yard. The kind of house I might have had if I'd stayed a CPA instead of becoming Richard's unpaid assistant. I rang the doorbell. Victoria opened the door. She was wearing yoga clothes, her hair in a messy bun. She looked younger without makeup, more vulnerable. Her face went white when she saw me. "Mrs. Crawford, we need to talk." "I don't think that's a good idea." "It's not a suggestion, Victoria. Either we talk here, or we talk in front of your husband. Your choice." She stepped aside. The inside of her house was even more beautiful than the outside. High ceilings, art on the walls, toys scattered on an expensive rug. Evidence of the children she'd been so afraid I'd tell about her affair. "Sit down," she said. Her voice was steady now. The panic was gone, replaced by something harder. I sat. "You know about the investigation," she said. It wasn't a question. "I know you filed a complaint. I know you withdrew it." "I know you've been building a case against Richard while sleeping with him." Victoria laughed, a bitter sound. "You think I wanted to sleep with him? You think any of this was my choice? Wasn't it?" She leaned forward. "Your husband threatened me, Mrs. Crawford. When I filed that complaint, he came to my office and told me exactly what would happen if I didn't withdraw it. He said he had friends on the board. He said he would destroy my career. He said he would tell my husband I'd been harassing him." "So, you slept with him to protect yourself?" "I slept with him to buy time, to gather evidence." to make sure that when I finally took him down, there would be nothing he could do to stop me. I looked at this woman I'd hated for weeks, this woman who had been in my house, drinking my husband's coffee, wearing her date dress like a weapon. Why are you telling me this? Because you filed for divorce. Because Richard's accounts are frozen. Because everything is moving faster than I planned, and I need to know you're not going to mess this up. Mess what up? Victoria stood. She walked to a cabinet and pulled out a folder. Thick, heavy. 2 years of evidence, every fraudulent expense, every lie. Every threat he made to me and 3 other women in the company. She dropped the folder on the coffee table. This goes to the board on Monday. By Tuesday, Richard will be fired. By Wednesday, the police will be involved. I stared at the folder. All of Richard's sins, documented in black and white. What do you want from me? I want you to wait. Don't do anything until Monday. Let me handle Richard my way. After that, you can have whatever's left of him. And if I don't wait... Victoria's eyes went cold. Then I tell the board you were complicit, that you knew about the fraud and benefited from it. That the jewelry, the vacations, the lifestyle, all of it was paid for with stolen money. That's not true. It doesn't matter if it's true, it matters what I can make them believe. I felt the ground shift beneath me. I'd come here thinking I had power, thinking I could negotiate. I was wrong. Victoria Chen held all the cards, and she knew it. Fine, I said. I'll wait until Monday. Smart choice. Victoria walked to the door and opened it. And Mrs. Crawford, I'm sorry. For what it's worth. You didn't deserve any of this. I walked out into the Arizona sun. The heat pressed down on me like a weight. I drove home in silence, thinking about everything Victoria had said. About the threats Richard had made, about the other women in the company, about the carefully constructed trap that was about to snap shut on my husband's life. When I got home, Tyler's car was in the driveway. I found him in the kitchen, sitting at the table with his laptop open. "Mom, I found something." "What?" He turned the laptop to face me. An email chain. Richard to Victoria. Read the last one. I read. If you think you can use this against me, think again. I have documentation of every inappropriate encounter. I have witnesses. I will destroy you, Victoria. I will destroy your marriage, your career, your life. Back off or face the consequences. R. The email was dated 5 months ago, before the affair, before any of it. He threatened her before they started sleeping together, Tyler said. I know. She told me. Tyler's face was pale. Mom, there's more. I found emails to other women, 3 of them. All the same pattern. Complaints, threats, and then sudden silence. My husband wasn't just a cheater, he was a predator. Did you make copies? Everything. It's all on a flash drive in your jewelry box. I looked at my son. This man who had once idolized his father, who had defended him just days ago. Tyler, I'm sorry you had to see this. He shook his head. Don't be sorry. Be angry and be smart. He closed the laptop. Victoria's going to take him down, but we need to make sure she doesn't take us with him. I thought about the folder on Victoria's coffee table. 2 years of evidence. I thought about the flash drive in my jewelry box. Proof of patterns, proof of predation. We have until Monday, I said. Then we better get to work. Monday morning came faster than I expected. I woke at 5 a.m., unable to sleep. I made coffee I couldn't drink. I watched the sunrise through my kitchen window and wondered if Richard was watching it too, unaware that his life was about to end. Tyler called at 8:45. Victoria just walked into the boardroom. It's happening. How does Richard look? He doesn't know. He's in his office making calls like it's a normal day. I imagine my husband sitting at his desk, drinking his morning coffee, checking his emails, completely oblivious to the avalanche about to bury him. Call me when it's over. The next 2 hours were the longest of my life. At 11:23, Tyler called back. Security is escorting Dad out of the building. I closed my eyes. How did he react? He screamed, he threatened, he said he was going to sue everyone. Then security took his badge and his laptop and walked him to his car. And Victoria? She left the boardroom looking like she'd won the lottery. The board thanked her for her courage. Her courage. The woman who'd slept with my husband for 8 months, who'd helped him hide his crimes while building her own escape route. And now she was being praised for her courage. Tyler, I need you to come home. There's something we need to do. What? I'll explain when you get here. I hung up and opened my laptop. I had Victoria's husband's email. I had copies of every message, every photo, every receipt. But I didn't send it. Not yet. Because at 12:15, Richard's car pulled into the driveway. I watched through the window as he got out. His face was red, his tie loosened. He looked like a man who had been punched repeatedly and couldn't understand why. He stormed through the front door. Olivia! I was sitting in the living room, waiting like I'd waited so many times before, but different now. Richard, did you know about this? Did you know what that bitch was planning? Which bitch would that be? Victoria? Your mother? There are so many to choose from. He stopped, looked at me. Really looked at me for maybe the first time in years. What did you do? Nothing. Victoria did this all by herself. I just didn't warn you. Richard's face went from red to purple. You knew, and you didn't tell me. Why would I tell you anything? You've been lying to me for years. You transferred our house to your name. You moved money to your mother. You were going to throw me out like garbage. That's not... Don't. I stood up. Don't lie to me anymore, Richard. It's over. The lies, the manipulation, the control, all of it. It's over. He took a step toward me. For the first time in 28 years, I saw something dangerous in his eyes. You think you've won? You think this is over? He laughed, a harsh sound. I have lawyers. I have friends. I will drag you through every court in this state. I will take everything you have. You will end up on the street, Olivia. I promise you that. No, I won't. I pulled out the folder Patricia had prepared. Documents, evidence. Every fraudulent transaction, every hidden account, every lie documented in black and white. The house transfer was illegal. The money you moved to Helen is marital property. The fraud at your company, that's going to the prosecutor, whether Victoria files charges or not. I dropped the folder on the coffee table. You're not going to take anything from me, Richard, because you're going to be too busy trying to stay out of prison. Richard stared at the folder. His face went from purple to white. Where did you get this? Does it matter? The front door opened. Tyler walked in. Richard turned to face his son. Tyler, thank God. You need to talk to your mother. She's lost her mind. She's trying to destroy me. Tyler didn't move. His face was stone. No, Dad. She's not trying to destroy you. You did that yourself. Tyler. I found the emails. All of them. The threats to Victoria, the other women, the fraud. Tyler's voice cracked. How could you? How could you do this to Mom? To our family? You don't understand. Everything I did was for this family. You did it for yourself, Tyler shouted. Every lie, every affair, every dollar you stole, it was all for you. Mom spent 28 years taking care of you, and you were planning to throw her away like nothing. Richard's eyes darted between us, calculating, looking for an angle. Tyler, son, listen to me. Your mother is manipulating you. She's been planning this for months. She's the one who... Stop. Tyler held up his hand. Just stop. I read the email you sent to Aunt Sandra 3 weeks ago. The one where you told her to keep Mum distracted. The one where you promised you'd be together soon. Richard went still. Sandra? What does Sandra have to do with... Everything. I stepped forward. I know about 2015, Richard. I know you slept with my sister while I was taking care of my dying mother. I know you've been paying her to spy on me for years. The room went silent. The kind of silence that comes before storms. Richard's face changed. The charm was gone. The manipulation was gone. What remained was something I'd never seen before. Pure, cold hatred. Fine, he said. You want the truth? Here's the truth. I've been miserable for 20 years. You stopped being interesting the day Tyler was born. You became this. Boring, domestic nothing. Sandra was exciting. Victoria was exciting. You were just there, ironing my shirts and making my dinner like some kind of robot. I felt the words hit me like punches, but I didn't flinch. I was done flinching. Is that supposed to hurt me? You think I don't know I was invisible to you? I walked closer to him. I knew, Richard. I knew every time you looked through me. Every time you forgot my birthday. Every time you came home smelling like someone else's perfume. I knew, but I stayed because I thought that's what marriage was. I stayed because I didn't know I deserved better. You don't deserve better. You don't deserve anything. Maybe not. But I'm going to take it anyway. The doorbell rang. Tyler opened it. 2 police officers stood on the porch. Richard Lawson? Richard's face went white. What is this? Sir, we have a warrant for your arrest. Fraud, embezzlement, and obstruction of justice. Please turn around and put your hands behind your back. I watched as they handcuffed my husband in our living room. The living room I'd decorated. The room where we'd celebrated birthdays and anniversaries and Christmas mornings. Olivia! Richard shouted as they led him to the door. Olivia, you have to help me. Call my lawyer, Olivia. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just watched as they put him in the back of the police car. Tyler came to stand beside me. We watched together as the car drove away. Are you okay, Mom? I thought about the question. Was I okay? My husband was going to prison. My sister had betrayed me. My mother-in-law had plotted against me, but I was still standing. I will be, I said. I will be. 3 months later. I'm writing this from the patio of my new apartment in Tempe. It's small, 2 bedrooms, a view of the parking lot, but it's mine. Every piece of furniture I chose, every plant I watered. Every morning I wake up here, I wake up free. Richard is awaiting trial. The charges are serious: fraud, embezzlement, money laundering. His lawyers keep pushing for delays, but Patricia says it's only a matter of time. The evidence Victoria gathered was thorough. The evidence I added was devastating. He called me once from jail. I let it go to voicemail. Olivia, please. I know I made mistakes. I know I hurt you. But we were married for 28 years. Doesn't that mean anything? I need your help. I need you to testify that you knew nothing about the finances. I need you to... I deleted the message before it finished. Victoria Chen's life fell apart 2 weeks after Richard's arrest. Robert filed for divorce the day after he received my email. He got the house, the cars, custody of the children. Victoria lost her job too. Turns out the board didn't appreciate learning that their whistleblower had been sleeping with the man she was accusing. I don't feel guilty about what I did to her. She made her choices. So did I. Helen stopped calling after the second month. I heard from Tyler that she's been telling everyone at church that I'm the one who destroyed Richard, that I manipulated him, that I drove him to desperate measures. The congregation believes her, apparently. They pray for Richard every Sunday. They don't pray for me. I don't need their prayers. The divorce was finalized last week. Patricia was magnificent. She traced every hidden account, every fraudulent transfer. The house in Scottsdale is being sold. Half the proceeds will come to me. The other half will go toward Richard's legal fees. The $95,000 Helen received has been clawed back as marital property. In the end, I walked away with $340,000. Not as much as Richard stole over the years, but enough. Enough to start over, enough to breathe. Tyler comes to dinner every Sunday. He quit his job at Richard's company the day after the arrest, walked into HR and handed in his resignation before they could ask him to leave. He's working at a small accounting firm now. He says it's less money, but more dignity. I understand that trade. Last Sunday, he brought someone to dinner. A woman named Maria, a lawyer he met at the courthouse during one of Richard's hearings. She's smart and kind and looks at my son like he hung the moon. I like her, I told Tyler after she left. Yeah? He smiled, and for a moment he looked like the little boy I used to tuck into bed. Me too. Sandra tried to contact me twice, once by phone, once by showing up at my apartment unannounced. Both times I refused to see her. The second time she left a letter under my door. Olivia, I know you hate me. I deserve it. But I need you to understand. I never meant for any of this to happen. Richard made me feel special. He made me feel like I mattered. I know that's not an excuse. I know nothing I say will make this better. But you're my sister. You'll always be my sister. And when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be here. Sandra. I read the letter 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer and haven't looked at it since. Maybe someday I'll be ready to forgive her. Maybe not. Right now, all I can do is focus on myself, on building a life that belongs to me. I've been thinking about going back to work. Not as a CPA, I'm too out of practice for that, but maybe as a bookkeeper. Something simple. Something that uses my brain instead of letting it rot in front of home renovation shows. I've also been thinking about my mother's plate. The one Helen broke, the one I glued back together. It hangs in my kitchen now, cracks and all. Every morning when I make coffee, I look at it and remember. I remember my mother's hands. I remember her kitchen in Cleveland. I remember the woman I was before Richard, before the moves, before I became invisible. The cracks don't make the plate weaker, they make it more valuable, more real. A record of survival. I'm like that plate now. Cracked. Imperfect, but whole again. Yesterday, I did something I haven't done in 30 years. I planted roses. My new apartment has a small balcony just big enough for a few pots. I bought 3 rose bushes, red, pink, white, and spent the afternoon getting dirt under my fingernails. It felt like coming home. Helen ripped out my roses in 2010. Said they were attracting bees, making a mess. Richard took her side, of course. He always took her side. These roses are mine. No one will ever take them from me again. Richard's trial starts in 2 months. Tyler says he'll be there for me. Patricia says I'll probably have to testify. I'll have to sit in that courtroom and look at the man I married and tell the truth about who he really is. I'm not afraid anymore. I spent 28 years being afraid. Afraid of disappointing him, afraid of losing him, afraid of being alone. Now I know the truth. Being alone is better than being invisible. The sun is setting over Tempe. The sky is pink and orange and purple, colors I never noticed when I lived in the 68-degree prison of my marriage. I'm drinking wine I chose myself, sitting in a chair I bought with my own money, breathing air that belongs to me. Tomorrow I'll wake up and make coffee. I'll water my roses. I'll call Tyler and ask about Maria. I'll do 100 small things that add up to a life. My life, finally, after 58 years. It's not a happy ending. Happy endings are for fairy tales, and this is real life. My husband is a criminal. My sister betrayed me. My mother-in-law tried to steal my home, but I'm still here, still standing, still fighting. And for the first time in 28 years, I'm not waiting for anything. I'm just living.